Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Anthony Riley. How are you doing?
All is good, sir. All is good.
Excellent. So, any developments in your science teachers' cognition problems?
I haven't really spoke to him since yesterday. I was on at the beginning of the show yesterday, the first show, but I had to drop in the last 10-15 minutes, and I didn't get the conclusion of yesterday's point other than to see that he wasn't there for the second show. He didn't leave on bad terms, did he not?
No, he just had John go through the scientific method with him and formulate his nonsense into a non-scientific hypothesis.
Did he accept that it was non-scientific, or did he get berated?
It ended amicably with him agreeing, and I was super stoked. I even told him so.
Right, okay, because I missed the last 10 minutes, and because I was in the car for the remainder of the second show, I couldn't really hear most of what was going on for the second show. I got the gist of it. I know that Brenda was on, and she was getting attacked for not understanding what period meant, and I saw the jesting that went on after it. But I realised that because I was in the car and I couldn't really hear everything that was going on, I wasn't really paying too much attention. In and out of signal, you know how it goes. I was kind of lurking in the background, but not really having much interaction. But I wanted to reference one particular point yesterday that I thought was so poignant that I just can't let it go without mentioning it and dwelling on it, because it's the epitome of one of two scenarios for me. It's either the result of brainwashing or it's something more sinister. And it was the point where, when we were talking about density and whether or not gravity was a thing, we got to a point where we'd identified what the independent variable was in the experiment that we were talking about, and we'd agreed that the independent variable was that the density, as mass increases, object will fall at a different rate or something along them lines. But as the conversation went on, he managed to come to gravity as his cause, and we were like, but we've literally just identified the independent variable being the mass of the object. And he was like, yeah, but it's because of the gravity, blah, 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 blah. And it was, for me, it was a real, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a real sweet spot.
Poignant.
When you and I both got to the realization that this guy is literally just right before our very eyes moved the goalposts with the application of the scientific method into something that was not scientific, and he did it without any kind of problems cognitively whatsoever. And even when it was pointed out that you've just changed the independent variable to gravity, and that wasn't the independent variable, and he still stood by the gravity, it was literally, for me, it was like a moment of like sweetness, because we'd identified specifically where a physics teacher who spends his working life applying the scientific method changed the goalposts. We spotted it, pointed it out to him, and he stood by his position by, instead of realizing the mistake, he kind of justified it with, well, the explanation for that is this. And you and I dwelled on that point, and he still stood by his position. And for me, it was like the light switched on for me at that point, that this guy is either brainwashed by the science that he's taught, or somewhat more sinister. But I don't think it's somewhat more sinister. I think it's literally brainwashed, because you can't go from the independent variable being the weight or the mass or whatever it was at the time to gravity, because that wasn't what the independent variable was. And he literally did that, And because he did that, I was like, do you realize that you've done that? And I think he realized that he'd done it, but he justified the reason for doing it by explanation rather than admitting that it was changing the independent variable to something that it wasn't. And I was just like, this guy's either a moron, and he's not a moron, or he doesn't realize he's doing it. So I don't know if anybody missed it yesterday, but if you missed it, check out the part where Nathan and I literally pull him up on it, and he still defends his position by saying it was an explanation for what we were seeing rather than admitting that he was literally changing the rules of the scientific method, the thing that he teaches on a day-to-day basis. And that was, for me, that was just glorious. And I come back out of it yesterday whilst I was on my way up here. And I was just thinking, how can a science teacher that teaches the scientific method not realize that he's just done the fallacy that he teaches? I mean, can you imagine if it was one of his school kids saying, sir, we're going to test the heat. The independent variable is the heat, and the dependent variable would be the rate of evaporation. And then Sir goes, great, we've got the relationship. So what was the results of your hypothesis? And he's expecting him to say, well, we found that as the heat went up, the rate of evaporation also went up. That's what he's expecting the kids to say. But can you imagine if the kids come out and said something like, well,
let me try.
We found
it's three-toed gnomes that cause it. It's unicorns, farts in the atmosphere.
And then Sir would say, what do you mean unicorns? You just said what the independent variable was. It was heat. Yeah, but like the gnomes are causing it, sir, because. And Sarah would be mad. And I was like, you've just done the exact thing that your kids, if your kids did that, you would railroad them and you would beat it back into them that the heat was the independent variable. That has to be the cause. And he did the exact thing. And I was like, wow. And I know he's in chat now. So I see him in chat. So, but I hope you're listening and paying attention. What you did yesterday was you correctly identified the independent variable, but then switched it in the great switcheroo and somehow it became gravity, and you justified it by means of, well, the explanation is this. And I was sat there and I was thinking, wow, can you imagine a school kid doing that in an experiment? And for me, I was just gobsmacked. So shout out to that man. What did you think, Nathan? What was your interpretation of what went on?
Identical. It's like, wow. So suddenly we're into pseudoscience fairy tales and affirming the consequent. Wow, that's quite unbelievable. But the fact that he was happy about it was what got me. It's like, well, I'm happy to just say that, yeah, if they've all... He's even doing it in his most recent video. He's saying, you know, well, if all of them have come to this conclusion by presupposing R, then they must be right, right? No.
Yeah.
No, you don't just point out that you're affirming the consequent and then expect us to swallow it. It's a formal logical fallacy. Just recognise the fallacy. For God's sake, man, you're a scientist, or supposed to be.
In a concise sentence, his most recent video says the following: if Eratosthenes was right, and also if Cavendish was right.
No, just stop you right there. Just stop you right there. So, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of, is another way of phrasing that. In other words, begging the question.
Yeah. But what he did was he got three things that he considers to be like a correlation and accepted them as causation, because even though that they're begging the question in the first place, because they correlate, that for him is enough. And he classed that as flat earth killer. And I'm like, wow, really? So I struggled with the rationale behind it, because for him it's black and white, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, right, okay, let's go with the black and white. Let's look at what you're calling black, and what you're actually calling black is correlation. If correlation, therefore proof, and that's not true. And that's even if we allow you to beg the question in the first place. But what it does do is it adds an awful lot of weight to the up and coming experiment that he's agreed to do with me. I've asked him to consider doing some scientific research, and what I want him to do, and I know he's listening, I want him to make the independent hypothesis, make the hypothesis of the science that we're told that we live on, even though he already knows the results. What should we see if we go to Hoy Lake, looking north to Blackpool Tower at 29.75 miles away? According to the science, what should be the results? So the hypothesis is we live on a sphere of a given size, and obviously,
don't tell him anything. Don't give him any hypothesis. You've just said that's what you want to do. You want to go and look at something. Now, personally, I wouldn't say that your formula. Well, I'm not even going to add my interjection either. If you want him to formulate that into a hypothesis, then let him.
Yeah, that's what we should do. We should let him formulate the experiment if it's to be an experiment, and because we would have to vary, but we can vary it because it's round the estuary. We can vary the distances. It's a bit awkward, but we can do it. But I want to know what he researches as regards to the observation. What is the expectation? Now, I have already showed him the answers in the hangout that I had with him, but I want him to come to the formulation himself by whatever methods and means and maths and whatever he comes to, because he should really come to the same answer. The sphere is fixed, but I can't wait to do the experiment because I want to see his eyes when he looks down that camera, and then he zooms out of the camera or he refocuses his eyes and he looks on the horizon himself. Then he looks back to the camera, and then he looks back to the horizon, and then the only thing that will happen in his head, you will literally see in his eyeballs, holy shit. Now, whether that happens or not is the key question, but that's what should happen. Whether it does or not is another question. But I can't wait to see him actually do it, because when he's presented with real world, empirical, observable, repeatable, verifiable evidence that does not support the official story, then you've got to start soul searching, or you've got to scratching around for different answers for why it's not it.
Give it a rest, Riley.
Hey, sir.
I got it.
Morning,
Hey,
boys.
you're loving that pedal a little bit too much, man.
Oh, yeah, I do like the pedal. How y'all doing, man?
I love your music, man. It's really, really cool. I'm sorry I've not been in touch much recently. I've just been busy.
What's that?
I'm sorry I've not been in touch that much recently. I've been busy.
It's all good, man. I've been doing my own thing as well. It's good. I'm glad you guys are still rocking and rolling, though, man. I saw. I'm so proud of you passing that test.
Yeah, and I did it cold as well. I had no.
Dude, I gotta say, man, that's impressive, and it speaks volumes for the caliber of kind of people that are looking into any of these subjects. I think far too long, there's been this ridiculous cacophony of "you're stupid," and it's nice to. It was real cool to see that, man.
I mean, part of it was because there was a deal on the table. I would debate him back and forth on my channel or his channel, but on Flat Earth, and it would be a debate if I did the exam. And I was like, well, actually, that's pretty fair because I also benefit because I'm pretty confident I'll pass it. I may not get an A star. I wasn't expecting to get an A star, but I was happy I'd pass it. And he sent me 2 previous papers, and on the papers he sent me, I was like totally comfortable with it because a lot of the paper that he gave me was practical application. It was things like, if you pull this lever down, what's the effect going to be? And you have to think about what's going to physically happen as you work.
We don't have to get into the test. We're just trying to say congratulations.
But the one he gave me, the one he gave me was not of the same kind. It was like, he sneaked one in, man.
Nice. I think, you know what? It got me thinking too. You were talking about the professor you were talking about, and it's kind of what I was joining. So I was thinking about last night. It's like, this is where you get back to this concept of philosophy. I mean, either you're outwardly moving in or you're inwardly moving out philosophically.
You've got to go up a hill to come down a mountain, man. Philosophically, it's all really spiritual.
Well, I mean, well, here, man, check it out. It's like, look at it like this. Like if like, think of it like this. The modern academic position says that you're made of stardust, which comes from trillions of miles away. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to looking at it from some like inherent, like you first looking at the world. We've accepted this idea that no. I come from all the way out there, not right here, not next to me. Like, think about all of our science, like the gravitational stuff. It depends on the necessity of a vacuum. When have any one of us experienced a vacuum? Like, you know what I mean? Like, good enough for, Newtonian laws to play out. Do you know what I mean?
Like, when somebody says that we come from stardust, just say to that person that says that, yeah, dude, go and look at meiosis or mitosis on YouTube. The vision that is actually multiplication. You can see before your very eyes that we are literally created right in front of your eyes. And you're going to tell me that we come from stardust, and you can watch the unit of 2, and you can see when the cell division happens.
Well, we can always ask Alan. That's what's nice. Alan.
There's a star man floating in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he doesn't know why.
Yeah, that's how, yeah. It's like I mean, like literally, like, are you made of stardust, Alan?
Well, mostly.
Really?
As David Bowie would say, I'm made from sausages.
Oh, really? He was English, right?
David Bowie?
I believe so. Yeah. Wasn't he? He wasn't American. He
He
wanted
was.
to be. He wanted to be a rocket
He
man.
wasn't.
Wanted to be.
Well,
Everyone wants to be Americans with big rockets. I just love that Donald Trump is now. He's pointing to. I don't know if you guys have caught this lately. Donald Trump saying how he goes. He was at a meeting and he looked over at Boeing and Lockheed Martin. He goes, "You guys spend a lot of money. You guys spend a lot of money." He goes, and you know what? He goes, "Rich guys love rockets." He goes, "But why are we paying for it?" Has anyone caught that lately? Have you guys been totally bereft of that stuff?
I don't watch the news. I'm not exactly Mr. Current Affairs, Issa, but it sounds interesting.
Oh,
I'm
from
glad
the
you told
darkness to
us.
the light, QAnon. You guys got to get hip, man. It's going down. And then they're trying to foment like a fucking like a race war in the United States over this immigration issue. And like, but all the while, everyone's like pissed off at Trump because he's making Space Force, which I would just remind people, certain people need jobs. Okay. So I'll just, a lot of Kerbal players out there need some fucking jobs. So thank God for America. But the point is like that he's just said, you know, he looks over and he goes, "Look, man, all these rich guys love rockets." So he goes, "Fine, we'll lease you our property. You guys go build them." You know, I mean, I don't know if I'm amazed a lot of people haven't caught on to that. And I thought it was just fascinating that he looked over and he goes, he was at the meeting and he looked at Lockheed Martin and Boeing and he goes, "You guys spend a lot of money." It was so interesting, man. So freaking interesting. Forgive me.
It is. No swearing.
Language.
Oh, is that me? I'm always swearing. Like, forgive me. So interesting.
Oh, trolls are in. Here we go. Is it already the time to ask audience members to fill the panel so we don't get trolled to all hell?
Well, hopefully won't be too bad. But let me see. I'm trying to get back to the chat. Shout out to everyone in the chat too, by the way. And thanks, man. You keep you know, I send you one picture of a sweater I got, and now I'm everywhere.
Yeah, thanks for the support.
Oh yeah,
more
you're
ways
clever.
than one.
I love it though. It's so good.
Hey Adam, is that you? Yes, it is. Hey Adam.
Yeah, afternoon, guys.
Good to have you.
How you doing, brother?
Not bad, it's you.
Doing well, man.
Riley and Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hello.
I just thought I'd answer the call for you, mate.
Nice.
Hey Ruhif, how you doing?
Hi, Ruhif.
Alan's new name is Alan Stardust.
Can't get no sausages today.
Hey James, good to have you.
Sausages today.
Thanks Ruhif.
I always visualize David Bowie in a jumpsuit, big boots with big headphones on.
Down in Antarctica? Down in Antarctica living it off?
Was he not Irish, Alan?
No, he's from London.
Is it London? Northern Ireland.
He always seemed to be living in the future.
I will tomorrow.
So fun. Shout out to Twitwit, Jazzaconda. What up, Jazz? What up? Stopping traffic. Nice, man. Yeah. And shout out to Ranty, man. I really love I hope I didn't jump the gun with that. I never talked to you guys. Somebody, I got a heads up that what do you call it? That we should have a Ranty song and some of the lyrics. And thank you guys. That song wrote it. I mean, you guys gave me the lyrics, but it just like the music, everything wrote itself. It was so fun. So
well,
big
not
up
really.
to one. How
lyrics,
the dude, 1 inch? Did you guys see Ranty's thing?
Give him
1
credit,
inch
credit.
off
Don't move on. Don't move on. Give Arwin credit. He wrote the lyrics.
Oh, and Arwin too. Yes. Yeah. No. That's what I said. Arwin, you and Arwin, I guess, are the ones who sent. I saw the lyrics from, and I think also to Miss Plain Truth, Mona Lisa, that guy. I don't know. I forget if I grabbed some of his lyrics too. I don't think I did, but very cool stuff.
So are we gonna get, like, we've got a song? Are we gonna get a card, membership card, and a badge if we become proper members of the Ranty fan club? Or
Ranty
what?
fan club.
Yeah, no doubt. We need our own we need our own Discord.
Well, we can sit around and talk about Ranty.
Have you got a song about the 10-foot wall yet?
Not yet.
I can make one up right now.
Get the guitar, boy. Get the guitar.
10. Is it? How about this? Is a 10-foot wall 10 feet when it's 30 miles away? Because that actually, I heard Riley, you're always doing this. It's like, it's not 10 feet at 30 miles away. It's like, well,
Yeah,
apparently it's not. It's the apparent size. Those little things, that's what for so long has like held us down, I think, in the mire of so much. And that's why I'm so glad that the semantics have been solved or getting solved. Like, how to have this discussion without like tripping over ourselves.
Well, let's get it clear for the audience then, because a 10-foot wall is always a 10-foot wall, but that measure is an actual size measure, which is what they want to force the calculations to be in so that they can exclude perspective by keeping
and real
things
quick,
in actual size.
shout out to Mick West for adjusting and reacting to you guys. That's honorable in itself, man. Have you guys? I've been told that he added a perspective part to the metabunk. Is that correct?
No, if the calculation comes out the same, it excludes perspective, regardless of what he may add to show how perspective works. I haven't looked at it, but if the calculations haven't changed, the calculations are orthographic. They exclude perspective.
Still, pretty cool that there's this like back and forth between the communities. Oh, is that Ranty?
No, it's me. I was just clearing my name so that they knew it was me and not somebody else.
Got it.
I wanted to say the Trump conversation that you were talking about before. Did you catch the comments he said? To me, I'm waiting for him to drain that swamp and see what he meant by it, because I don't think he's done it yet. I might be wrong. Being an Brit, I'm not familiar with it, but
check it. Do you know about there's like 40,000 sealed indictments? There's like people in Congress and people throughout all of the United States government that would have, under any normal circumstances, been running for office again, and they're not. Hey, yo, did you hear about the Clinton campaign advisor arrested for fucking trying to be a pedo, and the cops caught him?
Please.
22 years old, and he what do you call it? And they got him, and he was one of the top Clinton, these Clinton campaign people. It's going down, man. A lot of people don't quite, are it's like, I don't know. It's I don't know. Things take time, And like so many people are like, blah, 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 trying to, it's like with the whole flat earth thing. Like people are like, when are we just going to accept it? That the earth is just flat. It's like, well, slow your roll, man. Like if you take out, and remember this too, if you compartmentalize the conversation and remove the space agencies from it, you're brought back into like 19th century science. And if you're going to go there, and that's why I appreciate this show so much, because you do study the science, is that you cannot, like, Arwen's, solipsism is the final straw. We have to recognize when it's time for a draw. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a time when you recognize, like, hey, neither, and this is why we can't fight each other over these issues. I mean, there's certain points in play where it's like, oh, you're an idiot, and we're just gonna have fun here. But when people are emotionally attached to this, especially if they think they're made of stardust and they've built everything backwards into themselves, versus like looking at things like, what's the term? Inductively, like looking outwards and studying outwards versus like trying to be like, take it all from somebody else and then bring it into your world and adjust it. These are philosophical things, but scientifically, you can't prove it's a ball using optics.
Hold on, Issa. Hold on, Issa. Issa,
what's up?
Hold on. Blame me. Is that you? Can you say hello?
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
See you later.
Came in and out though.
We just have to kick them out if they don't speak straight away, because obviously certain accounts with names like that instantly become
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but now, so here's the thing: is where it's back again.
Yeah, I think blame me is a troll.
So, like, so philosophically, like, this is where it gets into that realm of where your science teacher isn't going to say, he like you just mentioned with that thing about heat, like, he's like, but gnomes, the student is not going to he's going to try to point back to heat. And
but that was the point. He did the opposite with us.
Right. No, that's a great example. I mean, of what we've been dealing with for fucking 2 years. It's kind of, pardon my language again. Am I going to get booted?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Forgive me. I've been kicked off before. Okay. So because of the philosophical concept of it, it's like, you cannot determine it. And then if you're going to say that that NASA's lying and this, that, the other thing, well, then I would remind people that if you start a business and let's say you get a backyard, right? You bought a house and you put your pool in the middle and you've got your thing out there. And then I come along and say, no, it's all wrong. It's not feng shui. It's not built correctly. You got to remember NASA and all those things is part of their agency. It's part of their company. What can you do with your property? Anything you want to. There's no real lawful claim against NASA or the United States. To be quite frank, I'm not going to get into the details, but the idea is that
just ignore them. I mean, like I said,
right.
That's
what you're allowed to do.
Sure. But when you were talking about Boeing earlier, I was like, well, I'm not Mr. Current Affairs because I just detached myself from all of that sort of stuff.
Well, the problem with that, though, is that, and this is the thing that a lot of people that have got a problem with flat Earth, is the idea that it takes us away from these current issues that used to be the du jour issues that allowed us to be on, understanding what was happening before us. It's what's made us and allowed us to come so far as all of the truth seekers beforehand. I mean, I remember telling people, hey, have you heard about 9/11 being an inside job potentially? I've had two friends of mine and that were so pissed at me when I first told them that shit, and pardon me. I told them that in 2007 or 8 or whatever it was, maybe even 2009. And then 5 years later, they're trying to tell me about Building 7. And I'm like, bro, remember you wanted to kill me over this issue? But I think we have to be aware of the political, it's our duty in a certain way to be, if you're interested in this stuff, is potentially you're one of the only reliable sources of information into the people that if you've been actually paying attention to this and you're not some conspiratarded, windbag, you might have a beat on things. And right now in a world of fake news, people desire some semblance of truth that can be pointed to. Your ideas should be backed up by facts and cited references. And that's the beautiful thing about this whole flat Earth thing. It's like, okay, you've got the Cavendish experiment. That's good. What else you got? On this molecular level that I see things, what other experiment do you have that proves gravitation? And another thing people have to remember is gravity is real. Gravity just means weight. Gravitation is the argument here. These are the semantical points that you guys have been making, and I'm proud to say that I can be a part of it. Because these are the issues. It's not that gravity doesn't exist. It's that the debate is surrounding gravitation. And then you get into the philosophical notion when, that's why I disregard the space agencies, because it's like a philosophical problem for someone to not be able to, accept that they've been lied to. I look at it like there's a lot of people that, it's like they've just never been lied to before. So it's like they've never.
Is that you, Chris?
Pardon me,
Lisa. Hold on. Is that you, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, it was him. I'm so sorry.
It was.
It sounded like Tim. Get him back in on Skype, man.
I'll see if I can get him back on Skype.
Chris, come back. Come back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's been doing good stuff with the. I saw you guys did that video with the perspective in the mountains and all the rest of it, and then Gem Panda struck back.
Yeah, from space. He struck back from the International Space Station and claimed that it was comparable.
Well, he's known to do that, but that's the thing is that's where what's cool is that if you can compartmentalize the conversation and that's what's cool about a lot of people that have come into here. That's why I've always appreciated certain cats like Jem and Tim, is that they'll discuss the natural sciences versus try to browbeat you into some. Well, sometimes they will. I've seen him do it to people. I don't
Sorry,
think
Issa.
they can much.
Hey,
Do it
Chris,
to
how
me.
you doing?
Yeah,
Is
good.
Chris
I was
in?
just trying to come in as a placeholder. I heard your request for the troll placeholders.
Oh, right, okay. And I kicked you out as a troll. My bad.
Oh, I
Aw.
seen you were clicking and trying to control the trolls, so I thought I'd lend you a hand and I'd listen in. But carry on.
I thought
Fair enough.
you
Feel
sounded
free to
like
drop if you
Tim
don't want to
Osborne when
carry
you
on in the
spoke,
conversation
for
there
me.
in Skype.
We both spoke over each other. I was just saying he sounded like Tim Osborne for me. I didn't kick him, but he sounded like Tim Osborne.
Yeah. Shout out to Tim, by the way. Unblock me, Tim.
Oh, you still blocked?
Probably. I don't know. I haven't. There's so many cool and interesting people that I've met out here because I came into the. I mean, that's why I'm happy to have I think me and Oakley are the only people that haven't like had each other's odds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many. I've just met so many awesome people out here that I've always hated to see when there's a disruption in the community's ability to talk to one another. Anytime there's like this, dramatic flare up, everyone like all of a sudden catches, some kind of
Hey,
snowflake,
God. Speaking of
syndrome.
snowflakes, here's Jazz.
What's up, Jazz?
Go on, Jazz, speak.
It is him. I'm pretty sure he did say something, but that's not a person. That's a troll.
Yeah, so shout out to Bobby, removed.
G'day and hi, how are you?
Is that you, Ranty?
Hey, Jazz.
Hold on.
Hello.
Hey,
Hola.
Ranty? Is that you?
Sorry, just dropping in for a moment.
Cool. Is that you, Ranty?
It is, yeah.
Hey, you got a full panel.
NT. Nice. Shout out to Cigar Face who hates us all. Peace, brother. You know I love you, dude. Fucking Curve Hunter. Biatch.
Where's Curved Water these days? Is he still on the scene? I haven't seen him around for a long time. I'm assuming he's blocked me.
Yeah, I don't know. Shout out to Curve though. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's the thing too. Think about I've learned so much from so many different adversarial positions that it's so fun to be able to communicate. It sucks that it gets deteriorated into some kind of like attack fest of personal things, and that's the recourse of people who have poor arguments. And the problem is that it's not helping win their collective battle, if you will, against trying to stop flat Earth. The only way that can happen is if there is more rationality. Whatever. I mean, how weird is it that flat Earth seems to have more rational people than the ball Earth at this point sometimes? Now, I'm not saying it's flat or round. I'm just saying it seems that the people who come out and argue for the ball go ballistically nuts. Although I've seen some flat Earth sweethearts that are a treasure as well. And that's the problem is that, like, all we can do is try to correct those amongst us. And that's why it's best to really ultimately be an individual out here, but yet respect the community. What's up?
No, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just going outside now. I'm just going to go out and check what way up the moon is, because I'm on the southern hemisphere, so I'm just going to make sure it's not upside down on the right way up.
You're beneath us, Jazz. I'm glad you
yeah.
accept it.
I'm just going to go and make sure I'm not all getting all fucked up before I say something. So
Language.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I'm not all getting all cocked up. I'll just make sure I'm where
if the United Kingdom would be the head and the Americas would be the torso, Europe and Africa would be the limbs, what does that make Australia?
It's just some kind of joke, I suppose. But upside down from where you are.
That's where you got to come in and say we're the base. We're the stable foundation of it all, right, Jazz? Australia.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can you just get the terminology down though? Can you just call it antipode as opposed to upside down? Because antipode is actually the correct term, and it just frustrates me.
Yeah, it's almost like the globe Earth is like the round table of.
It's funny in Australia, kangaroos jump down and land up. Planes land up when they get there and take off down. It's just amazing.
Hey, Jazz.
Yo.
Jazz is blessed down there.
Yep.
Jazz, listen to me, Jazz. It's just gone midday here, right? So that means for us, the sun is high in the sky. It's just above our heads, kind of thing. But for you, that would mean you'd have to point through the floor and tell me that you're stood on top of the sun, right?
It would do. So whereabouts in the sky you should have a daylight moon? That'll be in the west or east of the sky.
The west or the east. That
Yeah,
covers a lot of the sky.
Well, where's the moon in relation to your?
I can't see it from where I am, but my point was you're going to have to point through the floor for where you believe the sun is right now, not over the horizon, not over the horizon to the north, right, or to the. I can't remember which way around would it be for the south for you, wouldn't it? No, for the north.
Yeah, so where?
Well, you have to literally point through the floor to your kids and say, "Hey, kids, that's where the sun is right now," and they're going to look at you and say, "Dad, there's light over the horizon there. Look."
No, they're not, because there's no light over either horizon.
There must be some light over the horizon.
No, there's not. It's 20 past 1 in the. It's 20 to 1 in the morning.
I gotta grab this call. I'll be back.
Don't you have a job, Jazz? What are you doing up so late?
What about you, Icy? You're in the States.
Yeah, I'm in the States, brother.
Where about you? You're in Seattle, somewhere around there?
No, around about New York.
Oh shit.
Yeah. We're the brain. We're the brain of the collective body of Earth.
Yeah.
we're the left brain. Oh yeah, no, New York, man. Shoot the dude. You know, I don't know why we have. You ever seen that? Because you're bringing up the moon and all this stuff. Have you ever, and the sun even? Have you ever seen that? Like, there's like a meme where it's got like a flashlight or like a light bulb against the wall, and it's like the sun doesn't light up the whole Earth of everything, just like this light bulb doesn't light this whole wall, and it's got like a shadow, like a little, it only lights a certain area. And it's interesting, you know what I mean? Like, because
very first thing in the morning, it never does that.
Well, it doesn't. Like, the idea is that people think that if the Earth were flat and the sun was local, that the whole Earth would be lit up. And that maybe is like, maybe it's like a kind of a, I don't know, it's just it's a preconceived notion about how we would, like, what we think the sun is. And I think it brings up a lot of issues, a lot of problems, you know what I mean? Like, because where, in the same way, when you go to the beach and you look at the beach and you see like a path of light from the water to you in the sun, it's like me saying that if you're standing 5 feet away from me, there's no way that the path of light of the sun is going to you, because it's going to me.
Yeah, but that happens in every hemisphere, but at opposite times of the day.
Well, I agree that there's this regulated, accepted time frequency or time sequence that we're going through, but I don't know if we can necessarily pinpoint the location of the sun. I mean, it could be the effect of something. There's so many, I was looking at this. It was the reflection of the sun off of a car, and I was looking at, and the reflection of the light was like hot to me. And it was so weird that, like, it was just this reflection off of a car that was going right into my face. It was like warm. And it was like, we just don't know where all of any of this it could be sonoluminescence for all we know. I mean, there could be a big mountain in the middle. The stars could be the leaves of the tree of life. And that's why we have the meteor showers. You know what I mean? Like, because they're the leaves falling from the sky. Who knows?
Well, it's a huge thing also, like, way down in the southern hemisphere where I believe I am and other people believe they are, like down in Australia and all that sort of thing. You'll be able to look up on CNN News, a lady's car got set on fire in a car park in Sydney. in the middle of winter because the sunlight was shining through a bottle of water she left on the back seat of her car, and it acted like a magnifying glass.
Wow.
And you'd be able to find
that? How did they prove that?
It's got to be 93 million miles away, right, Jazz?
Well, no, I said how do you prove that it's not 93 million miles away? How do you?
Crepuscular rays.
You can't. How about this? You can't, and that's why we can't be mad at each other, right?
No, well,
I think crepuscular rays show that it's not 93 million miles away.
No, well, crepuscular rays. Sorry, is that you talking, Ranty? Or
No, it's me. And the other thing that you can do to prove that the sun's not 93 million miles away is remove the presupposition of R and then just apply basic flat
You can't prove it, Riley. Riley, you can't prove it's not 93 million miles away either. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you got to give me that they can't prove that it is.
No. Riley and Isa, both of you take the position of the International Space Station as fake, right?
Why would you think that?
Yeah, why would you think that?
Right? It's so real.
Riley, ice cream man's here. Do you want one?
Yeah.
With the plague. Because you
you
say
actually
it's
have got the ice cream man as well.
Because you say it's fake. But you can actually calculate the circumference of the Earth by the distance of the orbit of the International Space Station. Very accurately.
Right, but what if it's just doing concentric rings?
About a simulation.
No, let's just take like take a project, an azimuthal projection, and instead of the space station going around, going under the Earth or something like that, it's like, imagine it just doing a big circle in the sky.
Oh, I can imagine.
We can replicate this, though. We can give you
I can imagine it doing that.
No, but
how do you get it? But how do you come up with an azimuthal simulation or objection?
Jazz, we can show you how we can get a disc to levitate above a flat.
Well, no, hold on. How about this? The same way. Hold on 1 second. The same way that you come up with 93 million miles away.
Exactly.
Just because the ISS exists, right, doesn't confirm that the sun is 93 million miles away. It doesn't confirm. And there are alternate explanations, is the point, Jazz.
There are ultimate explanations, but can I just ask you two guys this one very simple question? Both of you guys, I assume, believe and accept chemtrails.
I don't know. It's not chemtrails. Well, people talk about geoengineering and their manipulation.
Okay.
Actually, do you know that Saudi Arabia actually does their own
hold on.
cloud seeding?
Don't.
Okay.
Isa.
Okay.
Hold on.
Geoengineering, Nathan. Hang on.
No, that's what I'm trying to interrupt. You went from distance to sun to
distance. No. Oh, you're interrupting because you know why? Because chemtrails prove that the Earth's not flat. That's why you can't handle it.
Yeah, that's just a load of crap. So
hold on. Do you believe in chemtrails, Jazz?
Look at chemtrails.
Hold on. So you accept? Hold on. So are you arguing for the case that Ranty's sunburn was caused by chemtrails right now, Jim? Or Jazz?
No. I don't. Chemtrails don't exist. They're contrails, and that's why I'm saying that if you look at contrails or chemtrails, whatever you want to believe, if you look at them on the horizon, they curve. If
no,
the
they
Earth
don't.
was flat, yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Why are you upset about it?
Right, I want to see evidence of contrails or chemtrails curving on the horizon, please.
This is rubbish. Come on. Let's get back onto the distance of the sun.
I'm not taking any photos. You can observe chemtrails, contrails yourself every day of the week.
So how come you're saying they don't exist, Jazz?
So what?
Evidence.
They don't prove the Earth is sphere or flat. It means nothing.
Jazz,
so what?
There are no contrails that curve at the horizon. Please provide evidence or just drop that claim.
Okay, whatever you believe they are, contrails or chemtrails, you have a look at them on the horizon and they curve.
No,
if the Earth was,
you're telling lies. Produce evidence for that claim.
Hold on. We already know.
No. Ranty or whatever your name is, you fucking prove to me.
No more swearing.
You take a photo
Calm down.
of a chemtrail.
No one here
on the
believes in
horizon.
chemtrails but you, Jazz.
No swearing.
Every one of you do.
Well, what are you talking about then? Why are you arguing it with us?
Every one of you think that a contrail is a chemtrail, and this
If that isn't an assumption, I don't know what is.
Yes,
Who are you arguing with?
They're all hiding the secret. We're all.
Well, hold on. How about this though, Jazz? What if they're totally necessary because we've got underground lizard people that are making a move on the president?
Yeah, have you factored in the lizard people? Come on, Jazzaconda. Have you
We've got to
factored
keep
these
them
lizard
underground, Jazz. We need those chemtrails in the sky.
Before you discount hold on, Jazz. Before you discount the lizard people,
Hang
right?
on,
Can you
Nathan.
hold on,
Hang on,
Jazz?
Nathan.
Jazz, I need to ask you a serious question.
Get out of me.
Jazz, I need to ask you a serious question. Jazz, before you discount
the worst
them
part
and
is that
laugh
what
them
if
off-
you're the reptilian because you're
Issa,
beneath us?
Hold on. Before you laugh them off, right? I just want to know if Jazzaconda can
I've got
disprove
wings
them.
and a tail and shit growing out of me.
No. Well, we always do something weird with you Aussies. That's why we put you on boats and sit you down there.
No, I'm a Kiwi man. I'll take it back.
So can you disprove the lizard people?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm taking my lizard back in and my wings back in, and I'm being going to be really polite. Hello, Nathan. How are you this evening? It's lovely to talk to you.
Thank
Nathan,
you.
would you mind
Nice
sharing
to
my
have you
screen,
too,
please?
Jazzaconda, as always.
Nathan, would you mind sharing my screen, please?
Of course. No problem.
Let me know when it's on.
I really apologise about that,
There you
Nathan.
go. You're on.
Obviously, I'm
Jazz,
way out of line.
You're on.
I'm
Right,
way out
so-
of line.
So Jazzaconda has just made the assertion that contrails or chemtrails, whatever you want to call them, curve as they get towards the horizon. I'm calling BS. I've asked him for evidence, and I'm going to cite Steve McRae, who claims that person X, in this case Jazzaconda, asserts that contrails appear to curve at the horizon, and he asserts that that's true. The onus is on the person to prove or to provide evidence. So I'm asking Jazzaconda to do what Steve McRae tells you, a baller, and provide evidence for that claim or drop it.
Sorry,
No.
Is this
Hang
nice
on.
Steve McRae's cited evidence for whatever he's arguing against Stellarium? Because that's just a model.
No,
No,
he made the
hang on.
claim that contrails.
Sleeping.
I don't know.
What
Putting
I'm
Steve
saying to
McRae
you
reference
is,
up when he's basically saying that you can go to Stellarium, which is just a model.
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you guys is that you see contrails and chemtrails every single day, every single morning and night and evening and everything.
No, I don't. I'm looking out my window now and I don't see a single chemtrail or contrail or anything of that description. It's beautiful blue skies.
And that's because Donald Trump, just so y'all know. No chemtrail.
Donald Trump's not affecting our contrails and chemtrails. We've just got a nice clear blue sky today. It's nice. It's the Queen. The Queen has decreed that it will be a nice clear blue day today. No contrails in the UK. The Queen says so.
Okay, so next time you see a contrail or a chemtrail, you can look out on the horizon and you can go to your radar, flight radar 24, and you can see where that flight's going. And you can look at it on the horizon and you can see if you can that it curves.
Wow, that's like me saying you can just go outside, you can just look out, and you can see for really far that it's flat.
Well, what on a flat Earth?
How come the radars are flat? All
No, hang on,
These
hang
screens
on.
are flat that we're looking at radar on.
Hang on. On a flat Earth, way out on the horizon, would a contrail or a chemtrail, what would that look like on a flat Earth? Would it be?
Same as it does, the Earth is flat. Nothing changes with your acceptance of the obvious and observable nature of our world, which is that we live on a flat plane. So you don't have to accept this. How things appear are identical. You just tell yourself that the picture on screen now has got an invisible curve we don't see. We just say we see it. But what we ultimately see remains the same for both people. The world doesn't fold up when you decide to assume it's a sphere.
Jazz, look at it like
Nathan.
the same way that 10-foot wall is still 10 feet when it's 30 miles away. It just looks smaller, right?
And you got to ask, where is the observer? Someone on the ground looking up at your trail in the sky is not going to see the same as someone up there in a little plane looking at it along the side and from the side.
Nathan,
Now, isn't that going to
Nathan.
change the point of view of that trail in the sky?
Well, what you got to
position
think,
you're viewing it from.
what you
It's
got
all
to think of
relative.
as the plane goes across the sky, so it's in atmosphere that's moving at maybe 100 or 150 miles an hour. So as it shoots the fumes out the back, so as it shoots the fumes out of the back, by the time it's travelled for 2 minutes across the sky, the fumes at the back have been travelling at 150 miles an hour for the last 2 minutes. So obviously you are going to get a slight curve.
No, Ranty, the fumes out the back have nothing to do with anything. If you look at, I'm guessing that you're in the UK or Europe or somewhere, which means you have a shitload of chemtrails, a shitload of contrails. You look at a position south of your location. And
how about hey, Jazz, are chemtrails affected by Coriolis? Go.
Are chemtrails affected by Coriolis? Depends. Are they long haul or short haul flights? Both are.
Well, actually, you're the only one who believes in chemtrails here. So,
Is it
Selective
selective Coriolis?
It depends what frame of reference you're looking at the chemtrail from.
It depends if you're flying the plane or not. What's up?
ISA, both are. But if you look at chemtrail coming over the horizon 200 miles away from you, it's coming straight up over the horizon. It goes right over you and it goes right back down.
Hold on, this is kind of like the argument
It's not curving over the horizon.
So here's my question. Here's my question. Anyone can observe this, and you're deceiving yourself if you go, oh, no, it's not coming up and going over and going down.
I want evidence from a surgeon.
Yeah.
I've had this back and forth with the Slice Barcane. And
no, you haven't.
I have all the contrails. I used it as a proof of flat Earth, you moron. All the contrails are straight. If we were on a curve, the planes were following a curve, you would see it in the sky clearly when the plane flies away from you. We do not see curved contrails.
So again, we're asked
you made an assertion, prove it.
So again, we're being asked to look up to see the flat Earth or to see the curved Earth.
You do.
Even so, Jazz Conda thinks that contrails are curved, and he's got no evidence to prove that they are, and I can prove that they're not. So I want to see the evidence, or you can drop your claim, Jazz.
Nice. Do you want to share my
screen? No, he changed and he said, when you look at the horizon, now he's not saying I see them curve. He said, when you look at the horizon, he changed he changed it a little bit.
Well, his eyeball is the proof. That's all the proof anyone needs, because if people are taking themselves out of the actual reality from different positions, you'll see different things. That same line in the sky, if you're up higher and looking at it from the side, you won't see no curve like you do.
We're all on the same fucking shape.
No swearing. And it makes everything. Parallel railroad tracks meet it in front of you when you're standing in the middle of them. The sky comes down and meets. That trail you're looking at is going to look like it curves, but it does not curve. Planes fly straight. Dump this shit straight.
So why does an aeroplane flying north to south in the southern hemisphere, why does it curve east to west?
That made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know if you're drunk, but that literally made absolutely no sense. Ranty, you're on, mate. I don't know if Jazz is still constantly talking, but can you hear me, Ranty?
I can, yeah. So go on. What did you say, Nate?
You're on.
Oh, right. Okay. So we've been asked to look up to see the shape of the Earth. Well, I'm looking across, and I'm seeing the RL&I lifeboat station on the water, some 15.7 miles away, from an elevation of 6 feet. It should be 108 feet beyond the curvature of the Earth. That's the RL&I lifeboat station from today. Next, we come to the castle ruins, which you'll see in a minute, which are on a pokey little island, no more than 15 feet above sea level. Just come into these in a second. There they are, right in the center of the screen. There's the castle ruins sitting on a little island. I can show you an image of that. Here they are, sitting on a little island.
You zoomed right in and you can't see the beach.
What? Right, so there's the beach. Well, there's the sand underneath the castle. There's the castle. There's the other part of the castle, little building at the side.
There's the castle. There's the top of the beach.
Oh, so you mean we're not actually seeing the footprint of the rocks at the very bottom? Apologise for that.
Yeah, got a very reduced viewing angle, unfortunately, Jazakonda, because he's basically parallel with it.
This is the lighthouse, Walney Lighthouse, and behind it you've got a couple of little white spots, which are obviously the chimneys of the building.
A couple of smudges.
Well, that's Walney Lighthouse. Bank in front of it, which blocks the direct line of sight to the,
right.
to the
Hold
house
on,
behind
Ranty.
it.
So, hold on, Ranty. So, do you think that's not the lighthouse? Not distinguishable enough, Alan?
Well, it's certainly not in focus.
Sorry, is it distinguishable as the lighthouse? We're not going for artistic quality here. We're going for evidence that you can see it at all, based on the fact there should be a hump between us and it, according to you fantasists that think they live on a sphere. So, based on that, I can see the lighthouse without anything obscuring my view. There is no bulge between us and it. Do you understand? That's the point of this, not how focused it is.
Oh, sorry, I was eating an ice cream. Did you say something?
All right, so we'll move on, Ranty. I think we're safe to assume that Alan's point was quite literally pointless.
Here we come to...
I'm glad we figured out that Jazz believes in chemtrails, though, despite his saying that he doesn't.
No, I don't. For a
Sure.
second,
We got you. Sure, you do. Sure.
Roger, coming 10-4.
Is obviously the town hall, Barrow-in-Furness. We've got the medical centre, which is here. That's Ranty's Rock, that's actually in the water, just sticking out on the water. I've seen it a few times. There's the church. I think it's St John's Church, I think, in Barrow. All should be gone. You shouldn't see any of this. It's not really there. Hologram. And in a minute, we'll scan across and we'll see the buildings of Barrow in a second when we come through. Oh, look at that. Shore to shore. There's the sand dune in front of it.
Holy shit! Can I come back in just a moment? I gotta take a wee break. This floral arrangement is just really upsetting me right now because I'm. Oh my god!
Bring some
Hang
on. So, Alan, this
I
is,
just don't know what to think.
Is this looming,
Sorry?
Alan? Is this looming? Is it in focus enough for you?
It's not in focus. Is it looming like a hyena? Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, we're looking for the looming.
Just laughing at you. Just
looming
looming and laughing at you.
Get the guitar, boy.
Looming.
You realise it all should be gone. You shouldn't see any of this. It's not really there.
What's the distance?
19.1 miles to these ones on the left.
So less than 1 degree of curve.
Less than 1 degree of curve.
No, it's 100 odd feet
every
out.
60 miles.
We're not looking at the degrees on a circle. We're looking at the amount of footage that's blocked caused by the curve.
We're looking for the hump, essentially.
The hump?
The hump that's going to stop us seeing these
The
buildings.
bulge, the horizon.
About 100 feet in the middle of that body of water there.
Does the hump have a tuft of trees on it?
The hump should obscure our view if we lived on a sphere, and we don't live on a sphere. The Earth is obviously and observably flat.
Well, see, here's the dilemma, too. Let's say, like, Ranty, if you take that shot and you zoom all the way back to where you can't see those buildings and you just see the horizon line, you know, at one point in time, people thought that that was it. That was the hump. And then over that, you were looking down over the curve and boats went over the horizon. And I got to say, if people wanted to quell the flat Earth discussion, then they could point to the professionals like Plane Surveying Navigation, Plane Surveying, who looks at 300 miles as flat, and then Plane Sailing Navigation, which looks at 600 miles as flat. So the idea that a boat went over the curve, the only problem is that these guys have hung on to this notion that boats go over the curve, and that's how we know it's a ball. And it's like, if they would just drop that, like, you know, I've said many times before, this idea of the optical discussion is like, ballers have built the holy mountain of obstruction. You know, it's like they've made a mountain out of a molehill. Like the professionals look at 300 miles as flat. Plane Surveying looks at 300 miles as flat. So to argue with someone on YouTube that the boat went over the curve, if Ranty, you zoom all the way back, you know, and you look at the horizon, it's like, okay, there's the curve of the Earth. But then you zoom in and you see further. So obviously it wasn't the curve of the Earth, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, you know, and this is where to argue with someone over this point of like, oh, the boats went over the, like, that is something where we may have, that's like a relic of scientific days gone by. Doesn't mean the earth is flat, by the way. It just means that that issue there is a relic. It's a tough sell to tell somebody that a boat could go over the curve of the earth at 4 miles out, but at 120,000 feet, it looks level still. It's
beyond the horizon. That's the looming zone. This is all beyond that horizon. That's all an illusion. All of it.
According to the Globers, so according to the Globe Earth, this isn't actually there. What's happening is the horizon is the bulge, and what we are seeing is something beyond the horizon, which is in this instance maybe only a mile or mile and a half away, maybe a bit further. This is a 6 foot. What's this?
6 foot observation, yeah.
6 foot.
Yeah.
They got 2 or 3 miles away from you, a bulge that obscures your view. By virtue of perspective, it is bigger and in the near foreground. Blocks all of the view of this. However, that's what the hard line is, even though that moves continually and is only an apparent thing. But that's the hard line of the Earth that's obscuring these things in the background. So we don't see them. They're not there. We're not actually looking at them right now. What's happening is there's this magic effect, which takes the presupposition that we're on a ball and then adds to it another presupposition that we have light bending at 7/6 the radius of that presumed ball to bring it back into our line of sight and sit perfectly in proportion, with the exception of any mirages that might be on it which cannot be modelled, and sit on that bulge perfectly proportional and looking like it does every day, because we have a, it seems, permanent non-standard refraction hyena in the instance of these buildings, because they're always being loomed up at any elevation at any day. As long as it's clear enough, and most days it is, it's going to be there in some form or another. Maybe a bit smudged if you don't have a very clear day, but ultimately speaking, it's never dropping behind the curve of the Earth ever, because the Earth isn't curved. The Earth is obviously flat, and we're not seeing a hologram. It's not looming up on top of a bulge. We're just seeing it. It's just there. Simple.
Yeah,
Well,
can I just point
in
out
this
there,
case,
Nathan,
the
the
though,
height of the
just
camera is not at sea level, is it? It's quite a 20 feet up the bank, isn't it?
20
And you're
feet?
saying- Well,
No, it's not 20 feet. It's 6 feet.
Oh, it's
if I
6
didn't
feet.
know any
It's a new
better,
kind of
in this
mirage,
case,
a permanent mirage.
Permanent mirage, right, exactly. According to the ballers, if you want to say that this is there, we can't actually see it. We don't have a line of sight with it. This is a non-standard refraction looming effect. That's what you're supposed to believe.
Beyond the hump.
Well, do you accept that? This isn't actually there, right, Alan? It's not there. We're not really seeing it. It's all a mirage, right?
No,
Well, in
Nathan,
this
it's,
case, it
it's
might
on the hump, by the tippy tops, under the tuft of trees.
Right, but you know why? You know why you think that though, Alan? Because the stardust in your eyes actually allows for you to
I'm
see
being
the
serious.
curve, right?
Why is Alan descending
I
this
mean,
into
like,
farce?
and you know
Do
what's
do think
unfortunate
it's
too
farce?
is it becomes
Hold
when
on,
you're having a
Issa.
conversation
Hold
with
on,
these people.
just
It's
one
like,
second, Issa.
Go on,
So
go on,
you're
brother.
descending it into farce, Alan. Fine. Do you think it's farcical, what we've just said? Because that's what you believe, if you believe you're on a sphere.
Is this not a comedy show?
Do you believe that what you see as the standard Earth model
Have I been
as
booked on the
comedy...
wrong show for 100 and what, so episodes?
You seem to be asking me a question. We have just detailed what is
It's
on screen,
my agent.
and now you're just talking over me. So you're just going to obfuscate this question?
Only until
Can
it's
I
funny.
can I speak
Well-
for the Globers for a moment?
I've got Alan
Ranty-
here. Don't need to, Owen. I've
Ranty
got
and-
Alan here.
Ah, but Alan's just a bad comedian with no more material.
I disagree. He's hilarious.
Thank you,
Randy,
Chris.
Yeah, maybe because of his character, but he doesn't really have any content at this point. But analyzing this new footage, I'd say that, well, with this lack of air clarity, it almost looks like everything what is looming there beyond the curve is actually half transparent. So the looming effect may be slightly off. So you could just see the air that is actually there transparently through it. What do you think, guys?
Can I just ask a really simple question for everyone on here, whether you're a
It's not
Glober
going to
or
be
not?
simple.
Whether you're a Glober or not.
But that's I've laid down a question. So, Jazz, do you believe that what you are looking at is a mirage that's not really there? We can't actually see these buildings. You can't shoot at them if you had a rifle. They're not actually there, right?
Yeah, and you can see the air shining right through it, because the mirage is not as clear as usual.
Yeah, artillery would just like go through that mirage and just boom, and then it'd still be there after all the military artillery hit.
I mean, you can see the air right through it. See?
Sure, Arwen. I really want to round out this. We're going to have a break very shortly, of maybe 5 minutes, but I just want a baller to round out and actually either say, no, I think it's farcical. Of course we can see it. It's there because the Earth's flat.
No,
or
Nathan,
say yes.
I can't answer that way. What way I will answer it is if there's a bad guy on the top building on the left-hand corner of that main building, right?
Got bad guys. Is he a reptilian too, Jess? What's going on?
If there's a lizard man in that, and lizard man Obama in the top left-hand corner of that fucking building there.
What are you, racist? Stop. Forgive me.
That's not racist. That's
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience. Sorry, naked baby climbing on me has put me off completely. I'll start that again. With that, I'll say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. That's right, bye-bye. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!